Well, this has been a really fun planning period here. And I just want to say how important I think it is that all of us have kept so close by way of Zoom, by way of each other, personally. And Linda and I were talking the other day and saying, even if we had had an in-person reunion, I don't think we would have learned as much about each other, felt as close to each other as we do. And I think after 60 plus years, it's a real accomplishment that our class still cares so much about each other and what we're doing. So with that, Linda and I have known each other for, well, I mean, we don't even have to lie, do we?
We're all the same
Everybody
age.
We're all the same.
It's a long time.
And Linda and I started with the music program, San Rafael City Schools in Hugo Rinaldi. And we had some wonderful experiences with the orchestra, with quartets, with youth symphony. And Linda took this experience to her career as an educator and then on to her art that just, wait till you see it. I mean, her personal input. I mean, we have so many incredible artists in our class, and it's so much fun to see the different approaches. And I feel lucky I get to introduce her because I certainly could never do it. But here she is.
Oh, yes, you could.
Welcome, Linda.
Thank you. So we have an image coming up.
Ability to unmute, to mute.
He's controlling it. Feels controlling it.
Once you mute yourself.
That's pretty. Yeah.
Okay, so here we are in Shaver Lake, and this is what I see when I go outside my studio door. And Shaver Lake is at 6,000 feet in the Sierra National Forest, and it is 50 miles east of Clovis and Fresno. And when I moved up here probably 42 years ago, I had no thoughts that I would, or I wasn't planning to stay. I had no idea that I would stay here for probably the rest of my life. And I became very addicted to the forest floor. And eventually, after doing lots of traditional paintings of landscapes and figures and so forth, I narrowed it down to the forest floor series. And that's what I'm going to share with you today. So this is what I see. This is where I get a lot of my visual information. And so let's go on to the paintings. Okay. When I first started the forest floor, now this was done before, I did a small painting of a figure in a landscape, and I loved the landscape. So I decided to do a huge painting of just the landscape. And in the process of doing that, I superimposed some abstract forms and painted them, integrated them into the design, and liked what I did and decided to continue. And this was the beginning of the forest floor. I took just the forest floor off of this painting, Night Shift, and went to the next painting.
Is that 6 foot by 6 foot?
That's 6 feet by 6 feet.
Oh my God.
Now I'm using an example here. This is a small painting. It's 10 paintings later. The paintings in between Night Shift and Marion's Promise, those were much larger also. But this one is simple and easy to use to give you the idea of what I'm trying to do with superimposed forms, changing colors, and making it from a realistic painting into an abstract painting.
Beautiful color.
What medium do you work in, Linda?
What was that?
What medium do you work in? And
It's
about how
acrylics.
long does it take you to do each of your paintings?
A long time.
Is
That's
that
all I
oil?
can say. There's a lot of detail, and it just takes a long time. Sometimes I'm going to show you one or two that have taken almost a year in the Forest Floor series.
And you
So-
work mainly in acrylics, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Acrylics on canvas, yes. Okay, now this is 10 paintings later. I decided to try and go further with my idea of superimposing shapes and colors. And I decided I wanted to try to make a form that looked like it had depth, like it was coming out of the painting. And this one, titled Enigma, is 6 feet by 6 feet. And it was really a struggle to get that form to look like it was coming towards you. So that's why I decided to title it Enigma. So let's go to the next one, and we look at Son of Enigma. When I was painting Enigma, a friend would come over and watched me struggle, trying to get what I needed to do to finish that piece. And later, when I was working on this painting, she came in and she said, "Oh my gosh, Son of Enigma." And so that's why it has its name.
Linda, how tall are you?
5 feet. Why?
So the reason I ask is I'm trying to envision you on either a platform or a step ladder. So
Yeah,
how are you putting all of this together, and how often do you have to step back for perspective?
you step back constantly.
Right.
And yeah, I have like a stool that I stand on when I do a large piece like that.
Right.
It sounds like a lot of good exercise.
Yes, it is. Especially carrying them around.
I have a question.
Yes.
Before you actually do the painting, do you sketch them out and ideas and work them out on paper before you?
Yes, I do most of the time. I will do a sketch. I have a sketchbook full of sketches, and yeah, but not all the time. Okay, so after my Forest Floor series, whoop, we're going too fast. Okay. The next 5 pieces I'm going to show you are pieces that aren't on my website, and they're pieces that the Forest Floor has led me to. So I just want you to see where I'm moving constantly, trying to be inventive. And so this piece is titled Indigo. And if you look at the forms on this, they're simplified, they're abstract, and it looks like an abstract landscape, which this would fit into my landscape series, or it would fit into the Forest Floor series. And when I was painting this piece, I was going to paint the top part, the sky area. I was going to paint it black, and I started, and then I changed my mind and I painted it indigo, and it just really complemented the painting and made it pop. So that's why it has the title Indigo.
And what I find is so incredible about your artwork is your personality is such a part of it. And what you envisioned when you painted this is something totally different than what I see. I see underwater. I see the motion of the ocean. And I think that it's so great that we can sit here and look at it each from our own perspectives and see our own interpretation of what the artwork represents.
And that's true. And people do see other things besides what I'm trying to say. And that's fine with me. A lot of people do see underwater in many of my pieces. So it's just how people perceive things and what experiences they've had. And I go along with that. Okay. This is another one I wanted to show you. It's a small piece. And again, using the simplified abstracted forms.
Looks like the open floor.
I'm still carrying on the forest floor. You can see in the foreground the weeds and the different plants, and then it goes back to the background, which is using a lot of the indigo now, because it is to represent going under and between the plant forms like manzanitas and so forth. There's so many plants out there, so they all tuck under the boughs of the trees or under the manzanitas or whatever the larger plants are.
That's so
Okay, let's
Very
move.
nice.
Okay, I wanted to show this too. Same idea with the abstraction of color and forms. But this has a morning sky. And then I have more realistic shadows of the weeds and the things that I just go right outside my studio door and pick, and I use them as models. I have a lot of them dried in my studio, but I still use them. They're more realistic, but it's combining the feel of the real and the abstract.
And if I might just interject something that you said to me when we were talking originally, Linda.
Yeah.
You said that we live in such a drive-by society. Everything goes so fast that
Yes.
what you like to share is what nature has given to us. It's kind of like time to smell the roses or the foliage or what is out there that nature has given us. And I think it really shows in your art.
Thank you. And that's absolutely kind of my theme. And when people would ask why all this detail and why the forest floor, I would say exactly that. It's to have people stop and look, because especially our children, we drive by, they're always looking at, their screens, and we drive by things so quickly and our lives go by so fast that we don't stop to appreciate the beauty that we're walking on or the beauty that we see. So thank you for saying that, Barbara.
Well said.
Linda, and
Yes.
so the question, do you take photos to work with? Because the morning sun is so much different than the afternoon sun on the forest floor.
Oh, absolutely. Take photos of what I'm working on? No, I don't. At this point in these last 5 paintings, I occasionally will bring in plants to use as models, but most of it's in my head now. I've done so much of this, and most of these plants are also abstracted, so I don't need to take photos. Occasionally I do, and when I was doing the more traditional landscapes, before the contemporary landscapes, yes, I would take photos and I would sketch. I went all over the Sierras doing that for years. So, good question.
Thank you.
Okay, and this one, morning pose. This is a good example to show how now I am applying paint with palette knife and also white paint, and I can get a nice glow when I do transparent layers of very thin down paint to get the glow that I like in this piece.
So Linda, let me ask you a question. Do you work with standard paints, or do you create your own mix, or how does that work?
Mostly I mix my own. I mostly mix my own, but I do use standard paints. I work with Golden. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the paints. They're very good quality, and I buy basic colors and mix my my own most of the time.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
And this piece is a good one to end with. I, as an artist, and you probably can tell, my most scary word, or at least favorite word in what I do, is stagnation. I do not want to become stagnant in progressing or pushing boundaries or being inventive or creative. I like to discover things and move on and be unusual. And so this piece, Transcendence, is a good example of that. It's very abstracted. It has abstract forms and colors and shapes. And it has the indigo in the background, which is really unusual. So,
And those trees in the background are absolutely fantastic.
thank you. Thank
They
you.
really are. They are so effective.
Bill Knopf.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be unusual. It's still beautiful.
Well, thanks.
And Linda,
Always pushing boundaries.
tell
So,
us a
Linda,
little bit
while we're on-
more about when you were commissioned to do this painting, what you had to accomplish by.
Okay. Well, one of my collectors had a space between two paintings that they were both mine, and he wanted a painting of a certain size to fit between these two paintings. And one was very abstract and free, and the other one was a forest floor painting that was very different color schemes on both. And so when he gave me the assignment and the size, I said, okay. And I gave him a choice of color schemes, and he chose this, but also I took colors from each painting on either side. The only way that I could satisfy what he wanted was to do it with color, because that was how I solved it anyway. And I ended up liking the painting a lot. I really didn't want him to take it, so I kept saying, I don't think you're going to like this painting. But he did, and it's gone. So anyway, that's the story.
So
Do
Linda,
you ever get visitation rights to your artwork?
Well, I will for a while. He'll be moving to the coast pretty soon, so.
So did he buy that painting? You still have it, didn't
Oh
you?
yeah, no, he bought it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I used to just kid about it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So Linda, while we're on that painting, could you just talk a little bit about the subject of patience? I mean, when you start something like this, it's so intricate.
Okay.
What's going on in your mind?
Can we go back, Phil, to Son of Enigma?
Yes, it'll take a second.
Okay. What we learned through our music really relates to especially this painting, because it was a difficult painting and very complicated, and it took a lot of focus and a lot of miles behind my experience to be able to accomplish this painting. And I was invited to exhibit it for 2 months in Fresno Art Museum, and I was so honored to do that, or to be invited, that I started thinking about getting to this point. And I thought about Hugo Rinaldi and all that we had taught, how hard you had to practice. And by the way, I was very bad at practicing.
Me too.
But now I guess my maturity and everything has made me develop a very strong focus and will to do what I'm doing. Anyway, so I wrote a letter to Hugo Rinaldi while this was up in the museum, and I thanked him for his music and for all the things that we learned as his students about practicing and working hard and doing things over and all of the vocabulary. And he didn't remember me, of course, because that was like 500 years ago. But he thanked me, and he was really honored that I had taken the time to thank him. I think as a teacher, that would be just a wonderful thing to hear from a student, how you're appreciated. And so anyway, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I guess it just speaks to the patience that is required on something as intricate as this.
Yeah.
What this particular painting reminded me of is you'd be in Japan and see some traditional wardrobe, and they have these obis, which are ties that go on to their formal wear, and this has the texture of these fine, intricate, woven, silken pieces. And I just was curious, where did you end up with this, or did you start with this, you know?
Yeah, right. Yeah. You just plug along, and you're always thinking and making mistakes and reorganizing, changing, and making it work. You just have to get off the stool and stand back and look at it and carry on, focus. Yeah.
We probably do not have the time to hear how she translates her visions into such beauty, because it'll take us 4 or 5 hours to hear all that good stuff.
Yeah. Thank you, Tom. So
Everything's so beautiful.
thank you. Thank you.
Linda, you came from an artist family. What kind
Yeah.
of art did your parents produce?
My mom was a painter, and she she was active in the Marin Society of Artists in Kentfield, and was becoming quite well known there for a while. She became ill though and had to stop. So that's when I was in college. So yeah.
That's a great institution. My mother was a member of that.
Oh,
well,
really?
Yeah.
Good. It is a good organization. I was a member for a while, but it was just too far away. So.
Your art travels a good distance right now. It's very good.
Thank you.
I wondered if you could relate. You know, I saw your work on exhibit about 2-3 years ago here in Portland.
Yeah.
And I wondered how this series relates to what you were doing at that time, or does it?
Yeah, oh, it all does. Yeah, a lot of those pieces in Portland were an extension of the forest floor, because I have a lot of different series that I'm working on. So some are from each series there. And Sally, it's possible I'll be in Portland again if it doesn't get too hot up there.
In September?
In September, yeah.
Oh, I'll look for you.
Yeah. I couldn't do that though if it's 109 though. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. So I thought I'd tell you. Yeah.
Good. Let's try to get together if you have.
Yes. We'll try and plan that this time.
Okay.
Yeah, we're still in Portland now, so maybe we could have a little mini reunion.
Oh, really? I didn't know you were in Portland, Bill.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Well, let's all go.
Yeah.
How you doing, Bill?
I'm in Portland too, but I'm in an assisted living place. So it's restricted. Sally and I have talked a couple of times, and I get Bill's Facebook posters that the image and the athletic endeavors are always interesting to me and to admire.
That's great.